The
This
meeting.
conference will now be
You're
recorded.
mute, Susan.
Very, very good. I was waiting for that. So I call the meeting to order at 7:10 on Thursday, November 18. So call to order on the agenda, number 2, emergency exits. We all know how to get out of our houses if there's some kind of a disaster going on. Point number 3, declarations of pecuniary interest, which we can make now or at any other point during the meeting. Approval of the agenda. Our last meeting was Thursday, August 19th. And that's so. I've got it in front of me here. Can I have someone? Are there any questions, clarifications, objections to anything? If not, John or Jerry, can one of you move to approve it, please?
I move the agenda.
Moved by John Riley. Jerry, falls to you to second it. So
I'll second it. The agenda.
And seeing no objections to that, we are passing the. You know what? I'm ahead of myself. We were on number 5 minutes, so or maybe
No, I approve the
No,
agenda.
number 4,
My
Chair.
resolution was to deal with the agenda.
excuse me. Thank you. I'm just, you know what? It's been 3 months since we had a meeting, so that's on me. The chair being confused. So agenda is moved and approved. Jerry, you've seconded approval of the agenda. Seeing no objections, the agenda is approved. Now we're getting on to approval of the minutes. I don't know how everybody's memories are. Excuse me. Our last meeting was 3 months ago, Thursday, August 19. Any questions, comments, or whatever about the meeting? Yes, John.
The second last page, in bold near the bottom, is the recommendation.
Yes.
And I just have a couple of things to say. One of which is pretty minor, and that is that I specifically remember the conversation. I think it was Barb or someone suggested that we delete the first word specifically and leave the second specifically in that recommendation. Because it's repetitive, could we please delete the first of the words specifically? My second point is that my recollection is that towards the end of that meeting, remember we were doing this all on the fly on a video call, and the suggestion was made, well, you know, could we fine tune this recommendation in a minor way subsequent to the meeting? And the chair said, yes, that was possible. Subsequent to the meeting, there was some minor adjustments that I suggested and circulated to everybody. Everybody said it was okay. And then Dave, you responded that no, it was not possible to modify that. So what I did is I just looked through that great binder of rules that apply to our various committees and provisions and protocols and processes, and I would be pleased if you would direct me at some point. It's not necessary to do so right now on a video call, but direct me to where it says that a committee cannot, by agreement, especially an advisory committee like this, change or amend a recommendation after the end of the meeting. And I say this in particular because of the challenges of video meetings, we're doing things on the fly when there aren't resolutions, draft resolutions tabled ahead of time for us. That it's a reasonable thing to do to fine tune a little wording afterwards. So I'll just make that comment. And Dave, if you can find that particular place in our provisions, our guidance documents that says that you can't do what the chair said that we could do at the end of that meeting, I'd be pleased to take it on board. But as it stands, I don't think it's really so relevant, that because even though this particular matter, I understand, has been appealed, the reasoning that I think you provided to council in your staff report was based on another rationale entirely, and so it is not. This is kind of a bit of an academic discussion at this point, Dave. But I'd ask you to provide that for me. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
John, let me speak to that. And
I can.
let me say, frankly, I don't recall. I'd have to look back through the video tape of that meeting. If I said that we could change it after the fact, then I believe I would have been making a mistake on that. So if I said that, then that's on me and my bad. I talked with Mark early about this and was told that we can't. John, your point and your request is a good one, and we will find out definitively about changing recommendations and resolutions and that sort of thing. But the same thing applies to council, and we're guided by the town's procedural bylaw. So we're not going to resolve this tonight, Dave. You and I can work on this, and we'll find specifically about it. What I learned or taken from this in the future. I mean, first off, we will find that, John, to make sure that we're doing the right thing, because I think that's important. Secondly, in the future, however long it takes for us to hash out the exact wording that we all agree on, we'll do that during the course of the meeting and come up with something that we all vote on. And so I do take it seriously, your concern about that, and that's what I take from that, and I'm not disagreeing with what you were saying and that. So if that's okay, leave that with me, leave that with Dave. We'll come up with the definitive issue on that tonight. We're not having a planning committee public meeting, so we won't have the need of making a specific recommendation to council and that. So we kind of get a pass here tonight, and typically, of course, we don't have meetings in December. So that leaves us the rest of it leaves us a couple of months before we have to have something definitive. But John, you leave that with me to take up with Dave, and I take it seriously what you're asking, and we'll come up with that if you're okay with that. As for
Absolutely. I did take that alternative on board, which was don't do anything for anybody else's schedules. Just take the time and work it out, and take the time it needs during the meeting, if that is the way to do it. And if people are irritated by that, so be it. Just get it right.
I agree with you. As for your request to remove the first specifically there, I don't have a problem with removing that. It doesn't really affect what we said. I know Susan is very thorough with this, so if she wrote it that way, it's because she listened to the
I was pretty sure Barb pointed out, as she often does, the grammatical error involved in this.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
but
and Barbara's better at that than I sure am. So, but
anyway,
if
nevertheless,
it does
I
doesn't.
cease and desist. I would recommend the adoption of the minutes as amended.
Thank you, as amended, as in removing the word the first
Yes,
specific.
yes.
Okay, Jerry, it falls to you to second that, please.
Yeah, I'll second that, but I'd like to make a comment as well. I think that it's along the lines that John is speaking about, but after we have passed a motion, we shouldn't be wordsmithing a whole lot of the recommendations or whatever. And I find that we tend to do that too much. It's once it passed, and we shouldn't be wordsmithing it because lots of times I'm on the phone or whatever, maybe even in the field or whatever excuse they want to use. And if the meeting goes on after the meeting, why, there's no sense me being at it, sort of thing. So that's my concern about the whole thing. So anyway, but I will certainly second the.
Very good. Just by way of that, I agree with you, and that's again my commitment as the chair, to make sure that during the course of the meeting, that however long it takes us to hash out something that we're all happy with, that's my commitment that we will do that, and we will come up with wherever it is that it officially says that you can't do it afterwards. We'll figure that out, and we'll come back to the committee with that. But so we have a mover and a seconder, and I'm not objecting to it. So with that, we're with the one uh, recommendation or change. We're passing the minutes of the August 19th meeting. So that's that. Point number 6, and there were a few different versions of the agenda. That's on me, but the most recent one, which you'll find on the website, has point number 6, which is public question period. Although we do not have a planning committee public meeting tonight, no specific application we're talking about. We all know that all of these meetings are open to the public. And so with that in mind, and I don't see anybody either on GoToMeeting or anybody phoning in, but I'll ask the required question. Do any of the public have any questions for public question period? And hearing none, public question period is over. So that brings me to why are we having this meeting? As I say, even though we do not have a specific planning application that we're looking at here, why this meeting? First off, it has been 3 months since we've had a meeting, and again, typically we don't have a meeting in December. But I became aware of some things that I thought, frankly, I got a little surprised by them. And I feel an obligation, and I know all the members of this committee take our job seriously. So there were a couple of things there that I thought, just for good order's sake and our education and edification, that we should cover. So that will be next point number 7. And then moving on, as we move on to point number 8, I will explain in a little more detail, again, something that I became aware of, but I'll explain that when we get to point 8. So point number 7, and this was, again, I was not aware of this. So I'm calling this, and first, I'm calling this the OMB to the LPAT to what happened in June of this summer to the OLT. And why is this important that we understand what the OLT is? Because recommendations that we make to council and we'll talk about one a little bit later. John, you've alluded to it, the wedding venue that took up our August 19th meeting. That is now appealed to the OLT, but we'll talk about it. So I got surprised to learn that the LPAT became the OLT, and I thought we should all be aware of what, if any, changes that makes to it. And that we should all be aware of that, because the consequences of our recommendations to council, as is the specific case here, is that. So Dave has prepared, and Dave, thank you. You've got a very detailed report here on the OMB to LPAT to OLT. I don't want to go through the whole thing. Bless you, word by word. But
oh, excuse me.
Bless you again. But Dave, I think the important thing that we all need to be aware of, the Ontario Municipal Board to the Land Planning Area Tribunals to now the Ontario Land Tribunal, if I've got the acronym right. What do we really need to be aware of without going through your report, which thank you. It's very thorough. So can you concisely tell us what the heck is the OLT, and what do we really need to know about it?
Sure, thank you, Chair McCrae. So the OLT is the new tribunal for land use matters across the board, whether environmental, conservation, mines and lands, and of course what was the purview of the OMB, under the Planning Act, land use planning matters under that act, right? So the impetus got started with the OMB as planning applications became more complex under revised provincial policy through the late 90s into the 2000s. And with the advent of some of the more key provincial plans that added to the NEP, and initially the Greenbelt, the Ridges and Rain Plan, and of course the infamous Growth Plan. And that created a layer of policy complexity that added to the load or workload of review of the OMB, and what they then had to start dealing with. They didn't really get the staff complement as well to deal with the extra workload, and things kind of got backlogged. And then they started to have to sort of make decisions on the fly as to which experts they would use, and so on and so forth. It's cited in my report, and there was a sense that they were either advertently or inadvertently leaning towards pro-development in most of the cases. And of course, there was a lot of other matters, such as the de novo aspect they had, that basically a decision from municipal council was that was then, this is now, we will re-examine it anew, afresh, with all the information. But they didn't always get new information, and there were still issues with what was complete application submitted to a municipality that through either non-decision got appealed, and on it went. And at some point, the government of the day said, we've got to revamp the OMB. That was the premise of Bill 108, and we got LPAT. And LPAT was to be a leaner and meaner OMB, Local Planning Appeals Tribunal. And it did a number of things. It created a higher tests for how appeal could happen. Primarily that if an appeal was being made, there had to be demonstrated to test how the appeal reflected that municipal policy was being out of conformity based on the council decision, and how their application was in conformity. So it was a two-edged test to get to the LPAT. I guess the big question, and they added mediation. There was a more flexible framework for mediation and dispute resolution, things of that nature. It's in the chart in detail. And then, as I said in my emails, in summary form, starting at bottom of page 4. end of the day, I mean, it came sort of out of the fly, Bill 245, to say, well, you know what, we're going to just converge all of the 5 tribunals into one. So there was no, I can tell you, there was no backroom professional chatter that this was looming. And it was June this year past that all of a sudden we had the OLT, the Ontario Land Tribunals. Well, we here at Mono haven't had any test under it yet. Although you're right, there will be one forthcoming, and that is the Dandex Holdings, Highway 9 and 4th line. Just on that note, it is now under appeal. So I'm going to say precious little about it at this point because it is under appeal. We have not had any feedback yet from OLT in terms of pre-hearing or case conferencing, but it is at that point. So I would just kindly and humbly and respectfully ask everyone to remember to be mindful that it is now under appeal. That particular application.
Dave, I was going to get to that one on the next agenda item, point 8, but you've done it now, so we don't have
Okay.
to do it. But I guess, you know, my point when I got blindsided to find out that the LPAT's now the OLT, Susan, you'll remember my response was, what the what? what the heck is this here now? And then coincidentally enough, as all that was happening, we've got a real world situation with that. I guess, Dave, the question is the OLT versus the LPAT. Is there any substantial or a substantive change there that, you know, although the planning committee is an advisory committee, we're going to advise to council. Council is going to make the decision, and their decision is the one that could, as with the Dandex Dandy thing, get appealed to the OLT. I'm not sure that whatever the OLT is, whether it will affect any of the planning committee's deliberations or recommendations to council. I'm not sure that it will, but I do think that we need to be aware of it. So briefly, anything that's substantial with the new OLT that we need to be aware of?
Okay. First of all, it merges the tribunals into one tribunal, and
That's a big
the
deal.
provinces of the opinion that's going to I know the ebb and tide of how things change. I'm not going to argue that point, John. It's expected to expedite decisions because the 5 tribunal silos now have become one. They will get expanded powers to dismiss certain proceedings if they feel they're frivolous or specious or vexatious. Okay, fine. There's some measure of increased flexibility, operationally anyway. There will be reduced participation rights. And by that means, hang on, I just got something I got to do with my computer here because it's flagging me with something. Sorry. So not party status, but participation status. And I think what they want to do is to really get things done quicker. If you're a participant, so remember in the OMB, you had party or participant status. As a participant, you couldn't cross-examine and give direct evidence, but you could make your comments to the tribunal member or members. So that opportunity is going to be constrained a bit in terms of if you do want participant status, as I understand at this point in time, it's like, don't show up, submit in your written submission. Thank you very much. They're going to have some challenges with member expertise. There's been changes at the board. People have come and gone. I mean, there's a labor issue shortage, if I can even use that term, across many industries and sectors. And I guess that particular one isn't exempt. So I don't know really what that means. I don't know what the influence will be down the road, but I think it's going to put some challenges on decisions. And it could be that optimal members with optimal experience in any one area may not necessarily always be available to conduct that tribunal. I do not know. We don't know yet. I mean, the other thing is now they're really starting to understand that submitting for a municipality to respond to an appeal with a truckload of hard copy paper had become onerous, and they have now relented to online digital submissions, at least for the municipality, as far as I know. I don't know about other participants or party members or people with party status, but so there's going to be a portal to do that. Beyond that, I don't know that the how can I put it, the deliberation component of the OLT is going to change much from from LPAT. Our first test will be the one we've mentioned.
John,
And then, of course, I've summarized it at the end. So it won't have any direct bearing on the committee. The committee will still make its recommendations to council. Those decisions will still have to be done by council with the recommendation from its good planning committee, and for that matter, any other committee it may decide to rely on to help make its decision. But in most cases, it's a planning committee of some measure, right? And then those decisions will either result in an appeal or not an appeal. And I think in most cases it does not. You know, the appeals are not the norm, but they do happen. Anyway, that's about the summary I can give you on OLT. I can tell you that there has not been a blast email that I'm aware of from OLT saying, "Hi, here we are. Here's the newly minted tribunal venue." I have not seen anything of that nature. There is a website, of course, but at this point, that's about it. I also do not know if it's going to be geographically assigned, where members Tom, Dick, or Harry deal with, say, Dufferin versus Wellington versus York versus Peel. And I mean, who knows? That might be an expedient approach, because then those members get to know the area, the region, the county, also the plans, the official plans, and so on. But I think at this point, it's going to be the same way the OMB and the LPAT operated, and that was who's available to go over here or over there. And I think that's what we'll continue to see. I guess another question will be whether we'll see multi-panel members versus single panel members. I suspect, given challenges on that front, my guess is they'll continue to largely be single panel members residing. And that's where we are.
Dave, well done. John, thank you. John, some questions, comments?
I want to thank you, Dave, for putting this summary together. I thought it was very useful and more than adequate. And I hope you can reuse this and retool it for sharing with council as well, because
Sure.
and maybe the committee of adjustment, just so that you get good usage out of this, because it's a good summary and it is appreciated, Dave. I think there are, what on the surface may look like, I think there's administrative efficiencies of putting all these existing tribunals together, but it's going to work out practically on the inside as assigning tribunal chairs on the basis of their particular expertise, because mining and lands is completely different than land use planning, and that'll be all too evident to the hearing officers. Only one thing drew my attention, Dave, and that is on page 3. Pretty well halfway down your discussion of the changes under the Ontario Land Tribunal, the OLT, you said that one of the changes or innovations might be to enable an approval authority, e.g. municipal council, provincial ministry, to dispute an appeal if it does not satisfy any applicable legislative requirements. So I did look at that and I said to myself, oh, well, that's interesting, because it actually encourages municipal councils and provincial ministries to exercise that option of saying, well, hold on, this is this may not be vexatious or frivolous, but it's not, it's it's not associated with any legislative, I don't know. Anyway, I didn't quite know what satisfy any applicable legislative requirements means, but nevertheless, I wondered just whether or not you had considered that innovation as being a possible innovation to appeal or to dispute the appeal about the wedding venue.
Okay, you're asking me to make a comment on that particular
Well, I mean,
item
if
for
it's
the.
come in and if it's new, did you consider using this particular new aspect of the OLT, which, you know, I just, so you don't need to maybe comment specifically on it, but I don't quite know why or what that means. And because if it means what it says it does here, it strikes me as being worth considering in terms of a dispute of the appeal.
John, I think you make a good point, and Dave, I'm going to I'd rather that you didn't.
Okay.
No, I think you make a good point, and I agree with you. And I thought exactly the same thing, but we didn't want to get into specifics of Bill Dandy's appeal here. But I think that your point, and to Dave, and as Mono Council and our legal people move forward, I think you're right, John. And I think we should.
There must have been a time frame provided with regard to, how long an appeal needs to be on the books before, during which time it might be disputed by a municipal authority. So, but that particular timeline isn't indicated here, but I encourage you to check it out. I'd encourage you to look at it.
I think
The
that's
system is worth exercising.
John, I think you make a great point, and I think that's a good recommendation. And I think, given that this is an active appeal by Bill Dandy, I think, in fairness to Dave, we'll leave it at that. But I agree with you, and I think it's a great idea. So, was there anything else, John, that came to your mind about this?
The only other thing is that, I think we've asked for a recommendation to receive the document, and I'd be pleased to make that resolution.
Well, but before we get to that, and I wanted to make an addition to that recommendation, but let me ask Jerry. Jerry, do you have any questions, comments about this?
Not really. Excuse me. I think David has done an excellent job of moving it forward. My concern is, as his comments were, that we have enough expertise at that panel to really follow through on what's really happening in the local municipalities, or whether it's land use, or whether it's forestry or conservation, or who is doing what. And it doesn't seem to be. I guess I'd have to be specific about that and say that Dufferin County loses 9.3 acres every day to agriculture. So I guess I'm being self-sufficient when I talk about that. Wellington, Wellington Waterloo, sorry. They only lose 5 acres a day. That's by the 2016 census. There's 175 acres a day goes out of agriculture and prime agriculture land in Ontario every day. And I'm not sure that we have got expertise in this kind of a dispute panel to be able to look at that and say, local municipality or local council says, yes, that's prime agricultural land. OMAFRA says it's prime agricultural land or whatever specific it is. We get to that kind of a committee, and if they just say, well, it's no problem, it's part of the Niagara Escarpment or it's part of whatever, so we're just going to let that happen. And I think that's a problem that we've got.
Worrisome. And you know, the thing, Jerry, is I always look down the road. I look 50 to 100 years down.
If you do, you're full one.
And I look at the cumulative impact. And I mean, as I've said to anyone who says, Dave, I'm thinking of having a rural severance. I anecdotally say, you know, I stand in the, not that I don't, I have certainly recommended approval of rural severances. Why? Because they meet the policy test. However, I also say I stand in the way of rural severances until and unless the policy framework pushes me aside. And I say that because I see myself as a bit of a gatekeeper to, I'll use the word restricting rural severances to those that really just, you know, meet based on prescribed policy, meet the test. Why? Because as you say, there's always going to be some loss of land because it's in our system, it's still a commodity, right? But I'm pretty mindful of that.
As you all know,
but if I have to stand out of the way, I stand out of the way, and I would tell any committee, well, they meet the tests. They meet the tests. So the recommendation is such and such.
But I understood Jerry's comments to be not about rural severances, but about the quality of the hearing officers and their expertise. And I agree with Jerry. I've crossed paths with well over a dozen, perhaps 24 hearing officers over my career, and I have yet to run into any that don't live in urban areas and are not lawyers or have advanced legal training. So this is an inside game, a well-oiled machine that is designed to be the development a guidance system for Ontario, and generally speaking, that's the job it's designed for, and which it does. And there are very few individuals who are seeking severances who ever go to a hearing, because people who are seeking individual severances, of course, don't have the money to indulge in such things and are really subject to the personal treatment of Dave when they come into the office to speak with him.
I'd like to, and you know what you both said is absolutely true. But you know, let's move this forward. John, you talked about something which I wanted to Dave's recommendation on page 7, but you mentioned something, and I wanted to add this to his recommendation because he has done an excellent job here. And in addition to Dave's recommendation, number 1 here, I think we should add to that this report should also be presented to Mono Council and to the Committee of Adjustment. So that would be my recommendation, is that that we add that to Dave's recommendation, that his report is passed on. Dave, I'd like to see this as a line item on a Mono Council agenda.
Okay.
In the future, they talk about a lot of things at those meetings, and I'm not going to argue about whether that's a good way to spend time or not. Some of them yes, some of them no. But I think that, my reason for asking about this was to educate the Planning Advisory Committee. I think that the Mono Council needs to be educated on everything that you gave to us here. So, John, Jerry, does that make sense?
I would support that amendment and that addition, and just add editorially that I think it's especially germane right now when municipal council is digesting the news that their appeal to the LPAT of the pit at the northern end of Mono Township cost out of pocket expenses of something like $425,000. In addition to which, you could add all the staff time, that David and Susan and others have put into it. So, being familiar with how the tribunal system is being reorganized to whose benefit is good knowledge to have.
So let's come up, if we're in agreement with what John, you brought it up first, and I was going to bring it up. So let's come a wording. So I'm happy with what Dave has put down here as his recommendation. After that, I think we should say, in addition, Planning, Environment, Natural Heritage Committee recommend that this report be presented to Mono Council and to the Committee of Adjustment.
Have you got that, Susan? If Susan's got it, we're all happy.
Yep. Susan, why don't you read that back, please? Because as I said, now we're committed to getting it right at our meetings. If you don't mind, please, Susan.
Resolution number 3 from this meeting, that Planning, Environment, and Natural Heritage Committee receive the report and that it should also be presented to Mono Council and the Committee of Adjustment.
So we're just adding the last part, that it should also be, you know, what Dave has written down here is good, and then we're adding to the end of it that it also, say those words again, please, Susan.
So second recommendation.
Oh, a second recommendation. Thank you. Separate.
I don't think it's a third, it's a second one, right? Yeah.
Second. Yeah, you've only given one here. So if we do a second one that says,
In addition,
Planning, Environment. Can you say that again?
In addition, Planning Committee recommend that the OMB report, or this report, be presented to Mono Council and Committee of Adjustment. It'll be separately, of course, but that's inferred. It has to be.
Yes. John, are you okay with that?
Yes. Yes.
Yep. Jerry?
Yes, I'll second that.
Excellent. And we're all in agreement on that. So that passes. So we have 2 recommendations regarding this report. So that's that. Dave, again, thank you. Job well done. And that was a lot of work, but I think it was valuable work. So, okay. That's point number 7. Moving right along here, point number 8, active planning applications. And again, this
Chair, I think 7B, correct?
Sorry?
7B?
I don't have a 7B.
I'm sorry. Okay, I have the old agenda.
An old one.
I'm working from the old one. Sorry, my apologies.
Yeah, no, I printed it off at the beginning. So next point is number 8, which is active planning applications. This again was my request, and I'll give you the reason why I requested it. We may be aware that on the Town of Mono website, there is a tab there. I think it's in the lower left, and it says active planning applications. I will confess that I don't regularly go on there and click on that and read all the fascinating active planning applications. But maybe in the future, I will spend more time looking at that, because frankly, I got blindsided one night when I got a phone call from a friend and a resident. And his question to me was, Bob, what do you think about this Aragon application for 220 townhomes, 223-story townhomes? And I was blindsided by that. So shame on me. Maybe everybody else in Mono knew about this. And my response was, having been 40 years in sales, my response was, talk to me about this Aragon application, because frankly didn't have a clue what he was talking about. And so he extolled his thoughts about the whole thing and that, and I had to say, you know what, my computer's off tonight, but tomorrow morning I'll go on and I'll look at that and I'll see about it. And then to my horror, or surprise, I should say, I found out that in pre-consultation, and John and Jerry, I don't know if you have looked at it, but the lands there that are just Highway 10, the lands just on the west side, just north of Royal Chevolds, that in pre-consultation, but it is on our website as an active planning application, is an application pre-consultation by the Aragon people for 223-story townhomes on that piece of land, which is, Dave, correct me, is zoned highway commercial, right? Dave?
It has a specific highway commercial zone. That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. So again,
Yeah, I guess so. I think we had that chat about.
Excuse me. So
Well, I was just going to say that I think to try to create that clarity, I believe we said that as part of a I think we were going to copy you, and I can't remember if we said through the pre-consultation as a CC to planning committee. That's the last I recall, so that you'd be aware through copy on the pre-consultation memo, oh, there's something afoot here that's just come in. And then it's going to various agencies, departments for pre-consultation comments. And just for clarity for everyone, pre-consultation means to whether it's a provincial ministry or a Mono department or a different county department, we don't want you to start scrutinizing detail. We simply want to know what are the basket of reports, documents, and plans that you want from an applicant that you will subsequently scrutinize.
Dave, I don't want to get into.
That's what it's about. Tell
thank you, but I don't want to get into the specifics of what
your basket of plans, reports, and documents are.
What I immediately after I looked at this thing, which is on the town website as an active planning application, I phoned Dave up and I said, Dave, I got blindsided by this, and I'm on the planning committee, and I take this as a responsibility as the chair that, and I asked Dave, I said, in the future, if something is moving forward at whatever stage it is, pre-consultation or not, but if it hits the town of Mono, a tab of active planning applications, we need to talk about this so that the committee is aware of it, and that John or Jerry or Barbara or Diane don't get the call that Bob McRae got saying, what do you think about this? So
yes, I think we said we copy on the email. I think that's where we left it, that we can easily copy planning committee on the email when we send out the solicitation to, again, agency departments for pre-consultation. I think that's what we said we would do.
Well, and if the committee is in agreement with this, we need to be aware of these things. I mean, most of the stuff that is on active planning applications, we've already dealt with, and that. But
most of it,
so moving forward. So
I think that's fair. That's fair. I guess it never occurred to us because it's there and we see it every day. And apologies because obviously not everyone out there is necessarily looking at it every day. But I think where we left it was, okay, we'll copy planning committee when we send out for pre-consultation to the agencies and departments.
Okay,
so you'll know. Planning department is soliciting these agencies for pre-consultation. So yeah, we'll do that. That's we're always on the road to improvement. So if that's an improvement in the process, I'm good with it.
Yeah, John, questions, comments?
Well, my comment was that I think both the Committee of Adjustment and this advisory committee are treated relatively poorly in this regard. I'll use the one example of the adjacent property, which is the Hilton Hotel application, which didn't come to this advisory committee, and only came to the Committee of Adjustment because they insisted on 4 stories rather than 3 stories. And of course, it was commercial, so it fit. But there were considerable concerns about where is the water coming from for a major Hilton hotel, and how were the septics being handled? And so there were 2 meetings on the subject, but the only reason it came was because of this matter of the 3rd floor. In this, with regard to the development in that area, though, I think most municipalities they're in a rush to quickly approve residential where land is designated really for commercial or for industrial or for jobs land, and thereby erode the ability of the municipality to deliver on job lands in the future. And the reason is because there's so much money to be made in residential, much more money by comparison. And so, an environmental, I mean, that's a land use planning question really, is around, why are you giving up your jobs land for residential taxes, which is really what's at issue. But in that particular location, based on the Hilton Hotel application, again, the matter of where's the water coming from and where's the sewage going to are environmental questions of some significance, given the proximity to Island Lake and to existing sources of municipal water supply. So I support you, Bob, in that, and I will, in the future, look for this, where did you say, bottom left on some particular computer screen where I might learn about these things.
John, excuse me, I'm always confused because the town of Mono keeps insisting on having 2 websites. This citizen engagement portal, that, and then the main one in that. But Dave, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it is on the main town of Mono website, and there's a tab, if I remember correctly, in the lower left side that says active planning applications. Is that it on the main town website?
Under menu, under services, under planning, correct.
Okay, so I
would never find that.
No, John, you know what? We can, Dave and Susan, can I ask you to do this? There has to be a link to that tab. Can you do us, those of us that are, and I include myself on this, a little slower on this, can you, tomorrow, go on there, get the link to active planning applications and send it to us all, that the slow people like me can just click on the link that you're going to send to us and get to. There's a long list of these things, John and Jerry, of active planning applications. And again, it's I may be retired, but I'm busy, too busy to go on there every day to see. I wonder what's new here.
I like to watch paint dry myself.
So, Susan, Dave, is that easy enough for you to do? Is to get on there, get the link, send it to us all, so that every time I go on those websites, I get frustrated by them and spend far too much trying to find something that should be really simple. So if you don't mind, sorry.
Absolutely, I can send you that link, and I think that some of the confusion and everything is because this is relatively new. David, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but putting all the information, all the documents related to different applications, whether they're site plan applications or minor variance applications, everything's been going up there. And I think it's probably only been maybe since COVID. where we're going to more digital filing systems and having, so that when we send out this request for comments from all the agencies, they just get that link. And then that link brings them to all the documents related to those applications. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I think that we're definitely working through maybe the best way to do this. And whether people see them or not, they're not advertised per se, but they're there, and they're there for a reason. But maybe there's a different way we can do them too.
Well, it's there. It is all there, but it's kind of passive because you've got to consciously, or you've got to go on there and click on that thing. And I'm not going on there every day to click on it, saying I wonder if there's something new today, and the like. But as Dave and I talked about this, and we're in agreement that if an application, or if something is at such a stage that it's on the active planning applications tab there, then the planning committee must be informed about it. Because I don't want to get blindsided again by my friend and resident saying, "Hey, Bobby, what do you think about the 223-story townhomes that Aragon are proposing?" I can feel like a fool for a lot of reasons, but he said, "You're the chair of the planning committee. What do you mean you don't know anything about this?" And I said, "Well, there's not, chair of the planning committee doesn't really get you much more than that fancy title." So I'm joking a little bit here, but you know what we're saying. So we are in agreement that this stuff is happening. I think I did go on it. I went through it. Dave, I don't think there's anything else on that. One of the reasons for bringing this up was to make committee members aware that this is a huge application, regardless of what stage it's at. This is the biggest planning application in the town right now. So, John, I'm rambling. Sorry. Yes.
I appreciate the idea that we might be added to a circulation list, and and it may or may not get through on my computer because of my server and their what they do to my communications. But I would perhaps suggest, Mr. Chair, that perhaps Dave could take it upon himself when we have a planning meeting, and they're a few and far between, that we add an item to the agenda, which is an update from Dave on major planning
Sure.
applications that are in the works, so that you as a chair and we as members feel that we're at least informed in passing of what's going down. Because the way the planning system works, I mean, the council itself would never have known and has not asked for any approvals whatsoever on something like, Mono's first Hilton hotel. I mean, the system works in such a way that all of this can happen without anybody knowing anything. Who's involved with the committees or the advisory committees.
Yeah, it's under a process for site plan control, which is, don't shoot the messenger. It's a process between the town staff and the applicant. But it went through minor variance for the fourth floor. I get it. No, there was a list, a basket of permissible uses on that property. We had a conversation, John, your comments.
Yeah.
Had you bet me 4 years ago there was going to be a hotel there, I would have lost the bet.
Right. All I'm saying is possibly someone like Bob, who's chair of the planning committee, might, you might have had an item on the agenda in which you mentioned in passing that, you might want to know that there's
I can do that, I suppose.
Hilton hotel that's being applied for.
Not a problem. I can say, we have a site plan under review with town staff and the applicant on this project or that project. That one is still ongoing, by the way.
Sure.
And there is some progress being made. But you're right. There's some challenges with potable water and the septic system. Does that mean they're not solvable?
Could Susan
I
add
think
that
they
to
can
the
be.
standard agenda format?
I think,
Thank you, Susan.
yeah, I think they can be. So for that particular project,
I,
on
Dave,
that note,
Dave, please, I don't want to get into the specifics of discussing this, the various specifics about these applications. My point of bringing this up, it's all about communication and making us aware of it. If this Aragon thing continues along, it will come to the planning committee and we'll have our day to
oh,
go
for
through
sure.
all of those specifics.
There,
I don't want to get into those tonight. That's not the point of this. I think John's suggestion about putting that, as an ongoing agenda item is a good one, and John, and that's good when we have a meeting. But tonight, we're 3 months since our last meeting, and I'm not sure when this Aragon thing hit the active planning applications tab, but it was probably after our last meeting. And so that, yeah, thank you, Dave. So, that's why the whole thing is, and I want to reassure the committee, we have an agreement on this, that, when this thing, at the point in time when it's going to hit the active planning applications tab, we as committee members are going to be informed about it, so that we can look into it, and I don't have to look like the fool that I look like when my friend says, "Hey, Bobby, what do you think about it?" So anyhow, that was the point of that. Jerry, you got any comments about all of this, or?
Not really. I think I think that Dave and Susan have got lots on their platter without dealing a whole bunch of stuff that's coming in the future out to us. I think we're a volunteer committee. I appreciate that what we're doing and what we're getting, and that we have a piece to say to the council and recommendations to make to the council. But for me to go on, personally, if I was to go on Mona's website, I would be watching paint dry on my barn roof before I do that pretty near. It's just not something I do. And just right now, I'm on my phone texting back and forth to make arrangements for trucking for a load of corn and stuff. I've got lots to do without going to Mona's Townships. But I guess I also hope that David and Susan and all the employees up there are looking after this stuff for us. And I appreciate that they take our recommendations whenever we do have a meeting and something comes before us. So that's be my only comment on it. And I guess the other comment is that I'm on the committee because on a volunteer committee because I've lived here all my life and I really care about what goes on, whether it be the land or whether it's how it's developed and everything else. Other than that, people, it could be a waste of time. And I guess I don't consider it is, and that's why I'm still sitting here. But really, like, let's not make this the end of the world for everybody. And it just isn't.
Jerry, I agree with you, and my comments about this are not meant to be critical of what Dave or Susan are doing. I think they're doing a great job. They're working very hard on it. It's just a matter of communications. Just to let us know. Oh, by the way, this just went on the active planning applications. End of discussion. That's it. And then individual members can look into it as much as they want or don't want. But at least we're made aware of it, and that's my fundamental point.
Honestly, I don't think we ever in the busy day, we probably just never thought about it before. Like, I'll include planning committee on the list as a CC. So anyway, there we are. Just on the note of Aragon.
Sorry.
Yeah, on the note of Aragon, John is quite right. It does constitute, from Mona's perspective, an employment line conversion, and there's policy tests that trigger that, and it's not been in any way a fait accompli. It's got to go through that due process, and it's early days. Let's put it that way.
We will, Dave. We will get into all of that, and I didn't want to get into those specifics tonight. We will get into all of that. but
Yep.
if somebody goes on that active planning applications tab for that, you're going to see the Aragon people have already spent a lot of money on this thing and the like. So we will get into all of that, till we get to the point where the planning committee, whatever, recommendation, if we get to the no flipping way recommendation, or are you kidding me, or whatever it will be. So, or welcoming it with open arms. Anyhow, that's for the future.
Sure.
Okay.
I can tell you.
Sorry.
I can update committee a bit more if you want on a couple of other projects.
I didn't want to
Briefly.
go. Okay, quick. Yeah, briefly is great. Thanks.
So Mono Hills Corporation has applications underway under under circulation for a condominium and site plan. That's existing housing estate golf course site at Airport Road and Side Road 20 on the southeast quadrant. We're getting assembling comments, technical comments, and at some point it will have to go through statutory public meeting and of course come to committee. So it's a technical conversion really more than anything. It's from what is now a cooperative land syndication tenureship or ownership, if I could put it that way, wanting to convert into condominium applications. It's not that there's more development coming. It's repositioning itself as a condominium, but it will require a site plan agreement as well. And there may be, we don't know yet, a variance request under the fill bylaw to rejig some of the golf course holes, greens, if you will, and tee areas. But they're being quite transparent about their application and working quite well with the town on that. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, the other one is, as you probably know through council, through Mayor Krillman, the Monster Homes Initiative, which is it's going to be either an official plan amendment, but certainly a zoning bylaw amendment, perhaps both, to deal with trying to provide a bit more management over large homes on rural lots. And of course, that has a house size to lot size scaling aspect to it. That will be coming forward. My hope is for the December meeting at council. And then there's the instruction to bring it to committee. So committee will be involved in that. We've mentioned the hotel. The only other one will go through site plan, and I suspect it'll be a bit of a technical exercise with staff and the applicant. And that's for our phase 2 on Bluebird storage on Highway 9. It's done so well, believe it or not, that Bluebird has asked the owner there, you're going to come back in about 5 or 6, 7 years on a phase 2, do it now. So there is land in behind there. That's the old cement factory site, as you probably know. And we're undertaking, we're probably going to be a site plan amendment, an amendment to existing site plan agreement to look at that phase 2 or second addition, if you will, in behind the existing Bluebird storage. We're working on a realtor guide. So there's an initiative from council to, people who are coming to Mono and golly gee willikers, I didn't know that we had a fill bylaw, or we have natural heritage policies, or can I do this or can I do that? So Susan and I are working with Councillor Martin on that, and we've got what we think are some creative ideas to create more, be more informative, or have better information conveyed to realtors, brokers, and their clients who are going to be future Mono residents about, these are bylaws, and this is our character of Mono. This is what we're trying to preserve here, and it'll be a basket of items that we frequently see that raise questions on a regular basis. So that's under works. That's my piece.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Dave, thank you for updating us on all of those things. We'll get into them as they come to us. So,
Right.
Barry, any other comments before we move on from this?
No.
No, thank you, John. John, any?
No, I was just waiting for the next item, which is other business, I think.
Then I'm going to move on to other business. So, anybody got any other business? Yes, John.
I was just wondering, and I'm not sure whether Bob, you as chair, or Dave might be able to comment, and if not tonight, for our next meeting, and that is that I think we all kind of took to heart and studied in some detail the recommendations by the CVCA on their new management plan for Island Lake. They did hold a what I would call an online gala. I couldn't make the time of its when it was occurring, so I looked it up later, and I did last between 30 and 40 minutes into the presentation, which was really over the top. But I never really I didn't. They just went on and on about process and how great they were with talking to everybody, and I never got to the point where they were talking about anything to do with the plan. So I just, in relation to a couple things, just come to mind whenever I drive by or I'm walking at Island Lake, and that is that two flags for me were the proposed large and expensive architectural extravaganza that was proposed for the shoreline. And secondly was the move of the existing trail to a new and expensive shoreline location. And those were two items that, we took we recommended against. And I just wonder if anybody's got any feel that they might relay maybe at the next meeting about whether or not the expression of concerns by the host municipality, Mono, about this proposed management plan for Island Lake are being taken into consideration with any heart. Like, are they actually amending anything or changing anything as a result of their host municipality's input?
John, it's a good question.
So,
I did attend that meeting, the whole of it, and I don't want to take the time tonight. I'll make some notes based on what you said. Frankly, I was disgusted and disappointed with that presentation because it was just one whole load of smoke and mirrors. John, you had spent a heck of a lot of time putting together a very well thought out report from the planning committee, which we all supported, and we sent it into them. And I didn't see anything that we had recommended in our report to them. It was a very expensive, multi-million-dollar plan with no plans for how they're going to pay for it. And they glossed over some of the things, and we made a fundamental point about the word conservation. That Credit Valley Conservation Authority and Island Lake Conservation Area, and so I brought that up again. They glossed over some of the things, even to the point that when I talked to them about the negative effects, they're going to build another pavilion just to the west of the Island Lake Estates area and putting that in there, and they actually. To me, it was classic. They just glossed over it, and I had to bring up the point to say, "Excuse me a second here. You're putting a new pavilion in there, and you can say that it's radio free, but these people come in with battery powered huge boom boxes and do it, and so to me, I was disgusted by the whole thing, and that I did send out an email to planning committee members asking. Didn't get any, so John, you did reply with some things. I passed it on to them. I got a reply back saying, like with no further comments, I said, look, the comments, what we already gave you, read them again. Basically, in a polite way, I said, read them again, because you didn't listen to any of them. Read them again, and then I got this reply back saying, so if you're not making any more comments, then you're in agreement with the plan. To which I immediately, yes, John, you're laughing, I'm glad. To which I immediately sent back to them in a polite way saying, no, we're not in agreement with that. We're just not making any new comments. Read our previous comments again and put them into your plan. And with that was the end of the discussion. Never heard anything else. So, John, I don't know what to say to it. This is empire building at the highest level. I don't like it. So I don't know what else to say. You can see I'm animated about it.
Oh, there you go.
They pissed me off, and they'll then join. They're going to piss you off too. So I don't know what else to say.
Well, it's conservation tokenism. It's using the name of conservation for recreational development. It's too bad.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly what it is. And hierarchy building.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can say something. Laura had reached out, I think it was today, to set up a meeting with David and myself related to the comments that we sent in. So that's something we can definitely bring up with them.
It would be nice to know how and who they took to heart our comments. I mean, is there concept of participation that they just get paper and then they check off the box and ignore it? I mean, this is the host municipality. This is surely the host municipality to which they could expect eventually to be submitting applications for development and site alteration. Am I not right? Isn't this the case?
You're right. And whenever they come to every March or February for their levy, it's usually up every year, and they think we're the host then. So why wouldn't they think that we're the host for the rest of it?
That's right, Jerry.
So Dave and Susan, I don't know if you were copied in on what I replied to her. I've made a note here. I keep those emails. I will look for them tomorrow, and I will send them to both of you. But as I said to them, we don't need to give you any new comments. Read what we gave you before, and it was comprehensive and it was good. And they really did ignore it. So it just I'm sick and tired of it. I'm going to say something here. Some members of the Mono Recreation Committee did attend that meeting. I'm not going to mention any names, but frankly, was disgusted by it. I thought, they were giddy as little children about all of this fancy stuff that was going to be built, and I just shook my head at it. It's a matter of perspective. So again, I don't know what else to say. They were just giddy about it, absolutely giddy about it. And that Fred Nix also attended that whole meeting. And he got going on about a bunch of stuff, and that I think he did bring up about how you're going to pay for this. But again, they basically ignored what the planning committee sent them. And if you're being asked to comment again, refer them back to that. I think you've both got our report on it. So read it again, CVCA, and put some of this stuff into practice, because as far as I'm concerned, with what they've put there, it was hundreds of pages, I think, that report. It's a non-starter. John, sorry. Thank you.
I was
Please.
just going to add to it. I'm not sure if at the time of our comments, we had got back the final provincial report on the reorganization of conservation authorities. But that report, as it's come back, is crystal clear about the province emphasizing that from their point of view, conservation authorities should be dealing with their knitting. They should be dealing with water and environmental impacts and flooding and that sort of thing. And then the report is very separate with regard to, and if they want to do something else, it'll be purely on their own behalf if they have the approval of the host municipalities. This is really strongly emphasized in the, as my understanding is, on the Conservation Authority report by the province. So I think, if anything, I've heard conservation authorities dissembling on this since, but the province was pretty clear, which is, hey, you find out what your municipalities want. So if it's over and above flood control and environmental protection.
Yeah, that report from the province really dealt it out, but you really wonder if anybody read it from them either.
Right.
From the Conservation Authority. Yeah.
Right. It's like they're going to ignore it.
That's right.
So, John, I think that Jerry, that's a very good point to bring up there. So, if you're having discussions with Laura, you should bring that up. That it looks as though they didn't read the provincial report and recommendations on it, because they still there was still far too much in that new draft plan that has nothing to do with conservation. The other area that they absolutely glossed over, and I mentioned it during our thing, is that some people call the CVC not Credit Valley Conservation, but they call it Credit Valley Concerts. And they quickly glossed over improvements or additions to the amphitheater, which has nothing to do with conserving anything. In fact, it puts some stuff on land that the Canada geese used to walk around on and do their business and the like. So again, this is something that just rubbed me the wrong way. So a good point, John, and that's our suggestion, Dave and Susan, is suggest the CVCA read that provincial report and put it into practice before they spend all these millions of dollars that they don't have. Does that make sense? Does that, John, Jerry, does that?
Thank you. Yes,
Yes.
I've learned quite a bit as to how that meeting went down, and subsequent communications kind of confirmed what I sadly suspected. So thank you.
Yeah, very good. Any other business? Anybody? John, Jerry, Susan, Dave?
I have
Sorry, Jerry?
Yeah, I have a comment. I think that not taking, because every government has tried to do this, and so I'm not trying to take party politics on this, but I think our own municipal, we should make a recommendation to our own municipal government that at Mona Township, that they go along with the county and Peel. I don't think Peel Region did, but Mississauga did, and Etobicoke and a bunch of them, that we make a recommendation that the provincial government doesn't go ahead with Highway 413. If we're really a planning committee and an environmental committee, the Heritage Committee, and we really are interested in keeping this somewhat rural. And again, I guess I'm talking from my own perspective. As soon as we build another highway, we're going to be putting more carbon up in the air. We're going to bring people farther and farther from their jobs. We're going to put more vehicles on the road. And I think in today's, and we're going to take more land out of production. I think we really should be taking a better look at what we have to the south and on the prime agricultural land that they have already. How we build, whether we build up, whether we have some of that industrial land and make it service down there so that it stays down. Every time we move a highway a wee bit farther, we build a whole bunch more warehouses. That's been evident for the 70 years that I've looked at it, and one thing and another, and we just keep moving it up. And whether we like it or not, people, someplace down the road, our grandchildren are going to wish to hell they had some land. They're going to wish they had a Peel Plain that is all under houses now. And maybe I'm a little passionate about that, but I've picked apples at Highway 9 or Highway Dixie Road and Mayfield Road down there. There's nothing there now but houses, and that's moving north all the time. And if you go to the east and the west, it's doing the same thing. And I'm truly concerned about that. But not only that, I think from a municipal point of view, we really should be taking a look at what kind of carbon that's going to put in the air. And I'm not a alarmist, I guess, with the climate as some people sort of are. But maybe we should be if we really take a look at what's happening in BC and what's happening around the world. Every time you turn the TV on, I guess for 10 years, I always said, oh, it's because we're getting the news from around the world. But the truth of the matter is, we're getting it from around the world, all right, but we're getting an awful lot of other stuff too. So anyway, my recommendation would be that we make a recommendation to council that they put a proposal together to limit the highways that are being built around the hoop and the hoop of Toronto, and make use of what we have and make it better. Because if you just build more and if you build more, they will come. I guess that's the way they kind of say. And I I had this discussion with our mayor 2 weeks ago Sunday. But if that's what we're going to do, why I'm sitting on some land here that I'd be better to take lots off one thing and another, and I've never done that. I've never believed in it. But if it's just dollars and cents and get on with it, let's do it with it all. Let's not fiddle around with it. But if we're going to try and have agriculture and have agricultural businesses, like we've got the county of Dufferin have hired people to go and build meat processing plants and get things going one thing another. Well, if you're going to build highways over all the land, you don't need a meat processing plant, and you don't need a lot of other stuff. So I guess I'm pretty impassioned about that. I don't have a direct proposal to put forth for that, but I really think that the council should be looking at it. John, you have a...
John, you.
I was going to say, Susan, if you can distill a resolution from that, because at a certain point, you can look back on the tapes. Jerry said, "I resolve that the committee advise council that there be a resolution to oppose whatever it was." I'd be, if you can, and if the chair was willing, I'd be pleased to second it. But
yeah, well, I'd just like to make
how the chair wants to get that resolution into shape.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure that we're going to get that done tonight. This will be in the minutes of the meeting. What is the will of John, Jerry? Do you want to craft a proposal or recommendation about this tonight, or can we come back with it later, or what do you want to do?
I'd like to make a
I have a basic
resolution.
one, Chair McCray, if you want.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yes, please.
And I'm just using the acronym. PNAC resolves to request Mono Council prepare and issue a council resolution declaring their objection to the proposed Highway 413. Well, that's a simple thing to say. There may be more you want to add to it, but
Well,
that's
it's
the
a
premise.
it's a start. Jerry, are you happy with that?
Yeah, I'm happy with that because that'll get some discussion going. At least they know we're thinking about it as a planning and environmental committee.
I second that.
So moved by Jerry Reed, seconded by John Riley, and no objections to it. So that goes. Dave, thank you. That goes then as a recommendation from Planning Committee. Susan, is that?
Can
I-
Yes, Susan.
David, to repeat that one more time, sorry.
Sure, no problem, Susan. So, and I can put in an email, of course. So, that Planning and Natural
Thank you,
Heritage
Jerry.
Committee resolves to request that Mono Council prepare and issue a council resolution declaring their objection to proposed Highway 413.
I just add, Jerry, for your amusement and everlasting sorrow, that it's the one thing that all levels of government in Canada agree on, federal and provincial, and all parties, is that the Greater Golden Horseshoe will have 4.5 million more people in the next 25 years. So
Okay, so
Or maybe more, or
Susan, you
maybe
have
more.
recommendation moved by Jerry Reed, seconded by John, and unanimously passed. Is that good, everybody?
thank you.
That's good.
Any other new business, other business? I have none.
Move to adjourn.
Moved
Yeah,
by,
just one last thing then, Chair McCray, and that is, I guess what I'll do is I'll put that in a memorandum, planning memorandum. I guess that's probably the best approach, and then it can be tabled for agenda. I was just fussing out how I actually deliver that to council, but I guess it'll just be in a memorandum.
just give it to them. That's fine. As
Okay.
long as they get the message that the planning committee recommends this. So we.
Yeah, I could even do a verbal maybe too. That's right. Staff reports, I can do it that way, one or the other. So fair enough.
It should be in the minutes of this meeting. Susan will put that there and that. So
Yeah.
they'll get
Minutes.
the point. Yep. With
Good
that,
point. It's also in our minutes.
we move to adjourn and that. So unless there's anything else. Oh, Dave, Susan, no meeting in December, planning committee, right?
Correct.
Very good. So everybody I'll keep reminding, the third Thursday of every month, keep it in your planner, and we'll just continue to let you know whether that, but I have Outlook, so I put it in, as I've done with Committee of Adjustment, for the fourth Thursday of every month. It's there, and we'll let everybody know if there's enough to have a meeting. So
And I would just like to say, Susan, as a working mother, again, thank you for attending.
Yeah,
We've
Susan,
had some long days over the past few weeks, so I do appreciate that.
yeah, you've got some kids to get back to. Susan wasn't able to get a babysitter. Your kids have been very well behaved, Susan, so thank you. With that, it's
Block them out.
Thank you very much, and season's greetings. Move to adjourn.
Merry Christmas,
Oh,
everybody.
yeah.
With that, at 8:44, we get the meeting's over. Thank you, everybody. Great job.